ChatGPT, Tesla's autopilot, Google Photos facial recognition, and Netflix recommendations often get grouped up into this AI bucket, but they're actually built on completely different technologies. And the thing is that most people don't actually know the difference. So in this video, we're gonna break down AI, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, and AGI. Because when you understand how each one works, you're gonna know stuff that 90% of people don't. And that knowledge is gonna help you stand out when you're looking for a job, or when you're trying to find the right tool for a project, or even if you're just trying to make sense of all of this AI hype madness. So to start this video, let's start at the beginning with artificial intelligence. In 1956, researchers gathered at Dartmouth College with one crazy idea in mind. What if we could make machines think? So for the next 40 years, they tried one major approach, which was programming every single rule by hand. I know that's wild. I can't imagine how frustrating that would be. But you know what? It kind of worked. They built systems like mycin in the 1980s, which was able to diagnose bacterial infections more accurately than most doctors by following thousands and thousands of rules. And companies were eating that up. They were spending billions of dollars trying to get these expert systems in place. But there was one major problem. Every time that computing power increased, people's expectations increased, but AI wasn't able to deliver on its promises. So the field went through two major AI winters where funding kind of dried up and people just lost faith in the technology itself. The first of those was in the 1970s, and then the second one happened in the late 1980s. So what is it they were actually trying to build in those 40 years? What is artificial intelligence? I'd kind of think of artificial intelligence as making computers do things that normally require human intelligence, like recognizing your face or understanding what you're saying, or maybe even making decisions. For 40 years, the only way to do this was to manually write out the rules for each one of these things. Let me show you what I mean. Like, look at chess programs like Deep Blue that were created in 1997, about 40 years after this whole AI thing began. Deep Blue had millions of hard-coded rules, like if your queen moves here, then your knight moves there. Programmers had to think of every single chess situation and move, and they had to write manual code for it. And eventually that system, Deep Blue, ended up beating the current world champion at the time, Garry Kasparov, which was absolutely insane at the time. Same thing happened with calculators, right? They followed mathematical rules. Like if you type 2 + 2 into a calculator, it follows the rule to add these two numbers together and it gives you 4. This approach works pretty well when you can predict what will happen, but obviously there's an issue here. What happens when a sophisticated scam email doesn't contain obvious scam words? Or your GPS hits a road closure that actually wasn't in the system. The systems break because you didn't write a rule for that specific situation. And for a lot of things, you'd have infinite rules, which would just be too difficult for programmers to continuously manually code. So computer scientists wanted to figure out if instead of them having to manually write the code for each one, they could actually get the computers to start figuring out the rules for themselves. That's what happened in the 1990s with machine learning. Machine learning, or ML, is a type of AI, but it just uses a completely different approach. Instead of writing every rule, we give the computer a bunch of data and we let it learn patterns. Here's an example that hopefully helps. Netflix, one of the biggest companies in the world, actually started in the early 2000s with humans manually categorizing every single movie. Action movies for people who liked Bruce Willis, or romantic movies for people who liked The Notebook. But obviously that couldn't really scale to millions of users with different tastes. So they switched to machine learning around 2006. Now they fed their system millions of viewing records. What shows people watched, when they watched it, how long they watched it for. Then they said, figure out these patterns. The computer would discover things like people who watched The Office on the weekend also really liked to binge watch documentaries on the weekdays. Or another example is credit card companies do the same thing for fraud. Instead of writing rules for every type of fraud, they let the system learn what normal spending looks like. If you normally spend $50 in your hometown on groceries, but then there's a $2,000 charge in a different country, the system is going to flag that. And the cool thing is the system gets better over time because more data means more patterns and it means better predictions. But machine learning had a problem. It was amazing with structured tabular data, like things you could store in an SQL database or in a CSV file, numbers, categories, text that fit into neat rows and columns. But show it unstructured data like images, video, audio, that couldn't fit into neat rows and columns, and it would completely fail. This breakthrough came when researchers found the way to mimic how your brain processes information in layers. Now this brings me on to deep learning. And before we get on to the next part, hit that subscribe button if you're cool. Thanks. Deep learning is actually a part of machine learning, and it uses neural networks with multiple layers. pretty much why they call it deep. As we know, traditional machine learning was good with structured data, things like text, numbers, categories, but it struggled with unstructured data like videos, images, or audio. Like look at Google Photos that launched in 2015. When it first launched, it launched with basic machine learning. Maybe if you were lucky, it would be able to tell if you're indoors or outdoors. Maybe it could tell if there was a person in the photo, but it couldn't tell you who that person was or what they were doing. Deep learning changed that by processing information in layers, like how your brain processes what you see. Layer 1 is spotting basic edges and lines, which is kind of like highlighting the edges in a photo. Layer 2 then combines those into shapes like circles or squares. Layer 3 then recognizes objects within those shapes. So things like a car or a tree or a building, they can recognize the actual objects. And then layer 4 is actually understanding those relationships. So a person is standing next to a tree that's behind a building. I mean, you can literally try this right now. Like go into Google Photos and take a photo and it knows things like, okay, this is Sarah, we've seen her before and she's in the kitchen right now. She's holding a birthday cake and we can tell that she's turning 33 and it's the 15th of December, so that must be her birthday. That is deep learning in action. The same breakthrough happened with voice recognition. When Siri launched in 2011, you had to speak super clearly, call mom, and then it would probably just mess it up anyway. Now, I know Siri isn't still that good, but you can at least say things in a normal way and it'll usually understand what you're saying. And by the way, there is way better voice recognition software than Siri. That is definitely not the gold standard. The breakthrough was GPUs, which were graphic cards originally meant for video games, but they could handle this parallel processing power. By 2012, we had AI that could see, hear, and understand like never before. But there was still a catch that not many people saw coming: the specialist problem. Every AI system that we built, either machine learning or deep learning, whatever it was, became really good at one thing and really bad at everything else. Like, do you remember the early version of ChatGPT where you'd put in a photo and it would say, I can't recognize or analyze photos right now? Or Tesla Autopilot, when it first came out, was fine on highways, but it couldn't handle being in a parking lot without malfunctioning. Think about it, humans don't work this way, right? Like right now you're probably watching this video, you're scrolling on your phone, you're skipping through the video, you're doing a lot of different things at once. If I asked you to solve a math problem or to sing a song, you'd do that with the same brain. So the race was on. People were like, how can I build an AI system that simulates more of human intelligence? And the answer kind of came from an unexpected direction. Instead of making AI better at analyzing things, researchers thought, what if I make AI better at creating things that haven't existed? This brings me on to generative AI, the one that we all know and love. In 2022, something incredible happened. You could type into ChatGPT, write me a short poem about a rabbit in a car playing checkers, and it would do that. It would create something that had never existed before. Or you could ask for a random image of a cat wearing sunglasses driving in a convertible, and it would do it. It's actually insane how we use generative AI. What made this insane is that every AI system beforehand could only analyze or classify information that already existed. Machine learning could tell you that this email is spam, or deep learning could tell you that this photo contained a dog, but generative AI created something completely new. You can kind of think of it like a really advanced autocomplete. Your phone keyboard predicts your next word, but these systems predict your next sentence or paragraph or even entire document. Some people argue that this isn't generative because AI is just recombining information that it already has. But I'd kind of think about it like music. Music is just a combination of notes that have existed in the past. Yet when Taylor Swift drops a new song, we don't say that this song is completely copied. Well, actually, that's probably a bad example because that has happened to her. But you get what I'm trying to say. It's a new combination of information that's already existed. This breakthrough happened because of transformers, not like Optimus Prime, different kind of transformers. Transformers are kind of like the brain architecture behind most modern AI language models. Think of them as really sophisticated pattern matching models that can understand how words relate to each other across a document, not just right next to each other in a sentence. The key innovation here was something called attention, and I'd think about it like if you're reading a sentence, your brain already knows which are the most important words in that sentence to really help with your understanding. That is basically what transformers do, but for massive amounts of text. This architecture, introduced in 2017, powers basically all of the big giants like OpenAI, Claude, Google Gemini, and basically any other AI model that you could think of. Most people think that these four technologies are competing against each other, but that's not how they actually work. So let's take a look at how they all fit together. Think of it like this. AI is the big goal, which is to make computers more intelligent. Now, machine learning is one way to achieve that goal by analyzing large amounts of data and understanding the patterns instead of learning through hard programming rules. Now, deep learning is one specific technique within machine learning that uses multi-layered neural networks. And generative AI is an application that creates new content, usually done through deep learning. But what's really interesting is that most modern systems actually combine multiple approaches together. Let me show you how this works simply by creating a food delivery app together. First, we're going to need to calculate our delivery fees. Maybe we use distance times the rate, and then we have surcharge pricing during peak hours. This is basic math with clear rules. If the distance is under 2 miles, then we charge $3. But if it's during peak hours, we add an additional $2. This is traditional rule-based AI, and we don't need to overthink too much. But now let's say we want to predict delivery times. Now, if you want to predict delivery times, that's a whole different ballgame. We need to take into account things like what day it is, how's the weather, what route is the driver taking, what day of the week it is. There is a lot of different variables, and we couldn't write out rules for every one of those variables, so instead we feed the system a lot of data, thousands of past delivery records, and we let machine learning analyze the patterns. Maybe it might give us something like orders from this restaurant on a Friday night might take 35% longer than normal. Now, customers want another feature. They want to snap a photo of their food and automatically leave a review or even reorder their food. Now you're dealing with images, like is that meal a burger or is it a salad? If I'm eating it, it's probably a burger. Traditional machine learning would fail completely. So we need deep learning to process those visual layers, like the edges, objects, shapes, and what type of food it is. Now we also want to have a customer service chatbot that can handle complaints or answer questions about ordering, or maybe even help customers decide what they want to eat. I'm craving something spicy, but not too heavy, you know what I'm saying? That's going to be conversational AI territory, which is going to fall under the generative AI wheelhouse. Do you see what I'm kind of getting at? This is one app with 4 different problems and 4 different AI solutions. The key is matching the tool to this specific problem rather than just using the most advanced AI that you can find. Real-world AI systems are usually hybrid approaches. But even with what I just described there, we're still missing something today. Every system that I just talked about is still limited to specific tasks, which brings us to the holy grail that everyone is asking for, AGI, Artificial Generative Intelligence. This is the pinnacle of AI, and it's all about AI that can match human cognitive abilities across a lot of different domains, not just specific tasks. Like at the moment, ChatGPT is great at writing, and now it can understand images, but it can't control physical robots yet. Or Tesla Autopilot is great at driving, but it can't really write a poem or have a conversation with you. Maybe it already can, I don't have a Tesla. Human intelligence is you can drive to work, you can write an email, you can open a window, you can talk to your friend, you can recognize someone's face, you can do a lot of different things, all with the same brain. We're not there yet, but some researchers think that AGI is 5 to 10 years away, some think it's 50 years away. I'm not really going to go into depth into AGI because it's not an area that I have deep knowledge about, and I think that a lot of people that are talking into this space do it out of a place of wanting to have credibility or maybe to fearmonger. But I think anyone who says that they're 100% sure is just straight up lying. Like, stop the cat. Anyway, I hope this video really helped you understand the difference between AI, machine learning, deep learning, generative AI, and AGI. It's a really fun place to be in, and we only kind of covered the really simple basics of it all, and I'm going to try and go more into depth into future videos. As always, hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below what you want to see more of. I don't know if you've watched the channel before, you know that this is a completely new office, and I'm still trying to figure out what looks nice. Give me any feedback or tips on how I could make this look better as well. I hope you have a fantastic week. Peace out.